Yes, I've got her as promised, as promoted. One of my favorite people, one of the smartest, strongest people I know who's been doing amazing work for her whole career and life. Karla Hernández-Mats, my friend who I've known for over a decade, is now in a new position, and I want to learn all about this position. They're very lucky to have her at this awesome organization. It's called Educated We Stand, where she's the new chair. Karla, I'm always happy to see you, to talk to you, to learn from you, and to follow whatever you say to do. Thank you for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you, my friend. It's always great to see you, even though we're in two very different states, but to know all the advocacy work that you're doing too. I'm glad to be able to be on.
Yeah, my state's about to get snowpocalypse, and you're going to the beach. It's gonna be like 80 and sunny
I
in
mean,
my.
there's only a few good things that are happening in Florida, and the weather's definitely one.
uh, At first, Karla, I just want to start by saying, like your work fighting for, let's just really generally say, fighting for strong public education system. And now at this new organization, fighting against the moms of liberty types, the far right, I call them fascist folks who I've been fighting in my town and across the country. That is not getting as much attention. No specific issue is getting as much attention in this national news and media atmosphere where there's so much craziness happening. So how important is it to continue to talk about, in this case, public education when it's being, I think, crowded out by all these other stories?
Yeah, and to your point, it's going to be crowded out because, where are the Epstein files, right? And so there's going to continue to be things that are going to pop up and distract us and, make us enraged about everything that's happening. But public education is so critical. I'm sure that some of your viewers or listeners have heard that they're dismantling the Department of Education at the federal level. This is going to impact students not only in rural communities but urban communities that rely on federal funds for Title I, which is for underfunded communities. We know that a lot of kids do, after school care or get tutoring or learn English through these programs. Students with disabilities is also a major component of the Department of Education. I'm a special education teacher by trade, and so I know how important these federal funds and the individual education plans for our students are. And so all these things are not talked about, but here's why I think it's important for everybody, whether you have a child in our classrooms or not. Education is the cornerstone to our democracy. We know that through public education, we can really equalize the playing field. We know that public schools have, for many years, after the Brown versus Board of Education, not only did they desegregate, but we also were able to make sure that our students, regardless of race, nationality, zip code, give them access to a proper education. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that all kids have access to a superb education so that they can achieve all their dreams. And so we need to focus on how that's going to impact us, how it's impacting their future now, but of course, longitudinally, how is that going to
Yeah.
impact the economy and the well-being of this country?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point to make, to underscore. It's always pretty easy to say that America is far too ignorant, far too stupid, dumb, and gullible as a result of what's wrong with our public education system. But I don't like to make that criticism because I don't want people to think that public education isn't the cornerstone of America. It is, but there's a difference between a well-funded, well-resourced public education. It's also well-respected, and there's contributions from the local, state, and federal communities versus something you just call public education, but you gut in order to obviously privatize it and take every single tax dollar you can and put it in your own pocket and not the pocket of the educators who are there to benefit the students. And public education.
And that's the playbook. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
the playbook.
That's been the playbook for 2 decades, right? How do you under research? How do you defund public schools, then categorize it as a failure, even though you're defunding it, and then privatize it so that you and your buddies can make money off of privatizing public schools and then making it about the bottom line and not about
They're not learning in our public schools. We need a change. You took all the books out and unplugged the internet and the electricity, and there's no air conditioning, and you've defunded everything, and yet there's these heroes, adults called teachers and other adult staff, there every day and pulling money out of their own pockets. I mean, they've done everything they can, and you've been the tip of the spear at all this. Very few people have seen what you've seen, not only because you've been in this fight for so long, but also because you've been in Florida, and for we can talk about the reasons why, but Florida is kind of the pilot state for all of these privatization.
Bad ideas. Just say bad ideas.
For bad ideas. Nobody knows that better than you. So yeah, lay out the kind of state of the union of public education, and that's a really big question because there's so much nuance and difference. There are wealthy schools and poor, schools. We fund it all by taxes, property taxes, which is such a bullshit idea. I don't think anybody else does that. But tell us about the state of the union of public education, however you want to.
Yeah, so public schools in Florida for a very long time has been, again, underfunded. Right now, we are second to last in per student funding at the national level, and of course, we have right-wing extremists that are trying to say, but we are the freest district or state in all these things. And the reality of what we're seeing is that there is political ideology that's being intentionally embedded into the public schools and their policies. Number one, we saw that Moms for Liberty was a group that came out of Florida, Brevard County, very specifically. We know that what they have done is created chaos in school districts. They're trying to ban books. And when we look specifically at what those books are, they are people of color, brown and black books, books of the LGBTQ plus community. And they're really trying to erase and just rewrite history. We're seeing curriculum that has been changed as well. In the state of Florida, we're seeing that teachers are self-censoring. Well, there's also real censorship, right? I mean, there are teachers that are being investigated right now because in their private time on their private social media, they said something factual about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And so
hundreds of educators and administrators and even board members in my town were fired, were suspended, were punished their whole career for saying the truth.
Yep. And so we're seeing a lot of bad policies like that, very extreme right, that are impacting schools. We're taking away resources in the state of Florida. They did away with AP African American history. They tried to do the same thing with AP psychology. Again, these are advanced placement classes that only help our kids get a better footing and have access to more opportunities, because when they go to college, these are now courses that they have already taken and gotten credit for them, which, if you are a middle class family or working family, being able to save money on not having to pay for certain courses is a big deal in order for us to, reach that American dream. And so, we're seeing a lot of those things here in the state of Florida, and the agenda has been, very purposeful on their end. They have tried to bring in candidates that create this chaos and this confusion and this kind of like just spectacle into our public school systems. And they've been getting a lot of funding from right-wing extremists, right? Foundations, the Koch brothers, the Heritage Foundation, to pour in money to get these candidates elected. Yep. And then what they do is they just, line up with what, the right-wing agenda is, which I agree. I think that fascist is the right word to actually describe what's happening when you see the book bans, when you see the censorship, when you see how they're trying to dismantle education and keep communities ignorant. These are all things that we've seen in the past. So I don't think you're wrong in the way that you're describing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think we've seen fascism, authoritarianism, right-wing extremism play out in other countries across the world. How it plays out for the issue of education and the government's role in education in America, public education, is never going to be the same, but sure as hell does sound like a similar song. And what we've seen, this, you and I, because we've been involved, and I've been following you and all your leadership for years now. 4 years, what they have been trying to do. And one thing that they're very good at is fundraising and organizing and achieving their goals, which are so often just binary, simplistic, fucking bullshit nonsense. You mentioned DEI earlier. They want to get rid of anything that's an acronym, and they don't even know what the letters stand from. I mean, I've even seen them talking about wanting to get rid of this idea of social and emotional learning, and all of these other things that should not be controversial. They benefit everybody. Everybody's a winner. And then you have these mostly white whiners in my town. Oh, you're making me feel bad because I'm your white. My kids feel bad because they're white. And I say to them to their face, if your kids feel guilty and bad because they're white, it's because you're a shitty parent. You can handle that.
Yeah.
Like they can understand history. It's not that hard. It doesn't mean they did the thing.
Right.
What it means is we want to teach all people all over what history's mistakes were so we can learn from them. Meantime, while we're talking, they're taking down like monuments to slavery in Philadelphia yesterday. So your work now is at this really interesting organization that's so important. They've got Moms for Liberty. They've got Turning Point, which is in my school. Students handing out Turning Point buttons. I'm like, where did you get them? I wonder where. And now you are the chair of Educated We Stand. What is this organization? Why should people support it with all they can? You can make a donation and you can support it in all kinds of ways. Tell me all about it.
So Educated We Stand, thank you for the question. Educated We Stand, came up, was birthed about 2 years ago. And really it was because we needed a counterweight to all the bad things that were happening with, Moms for Liberty and the kind of chaos that they were creating in school systems. So we came about specifically because of that. We wanted to make sure that number one, that we have pro-public education school board members supporting public schools. We don't believe that public schools should be privatized. They are for the good of the entire community, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them. Pro-public education candidates, people that believe in research-based curriculum, research-based policies that are good for students. Because at the end of the day, we want every child, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their ability or disability, we want them to have access to a high-quality public education, regardless of their zip code. And in order for that to happen, that means that we need people who understand the importance of education and how that breaks cycles of poverty and also gives people opportunity in this country, to really help us by chipping in. You can Google us on Educated We Stand, find us on the web, on social media, sign up for our newsletter or our emails. Educated We Stand does accept donations, and that we are funded through donations, but we try to work in swing states. We've been very successful in Florida. We've played in Michigan. We've played in Wisconsin. We're expanding. But here in Florida, we have an 83% win rate, meaning that 83% of our candidates that we have endorsed and supported through this process have been successful and have been winning in their campaigns. And that has shifted the dynamics of school boards and school systems so that we can give kids really the opportunity that they all deserve. And so we're really happy and excited about that. We think that now more than ever, with everything that's happening in this country and the dismantling of the Department of Education and Linda McMahon being at the head of this and really not caring about, I know, not caring about, public education or students. This is really
not being familiar with public education. Not being familiar with it. The whole goal is to recreate it. They have no idea what they're doing. They hate it. They're there to destroy it and to recreate it in their own image. And well, sorry to interrupt you, but let me just ask you for a specific story that you're seeing. I mean, you guys are doing this great work and it matters so much. And I always tell people when they say, what can you do? I'm like, are you involved in your local school board campaign? Fight. Are you involved? Do you know who the candidates are? Do you know when the election is? Are you voting? Are you supporting it? Are you giving them a couple bucks to buy signs? Are you stepping up and putting your name on to run? But can you share a specific story from Florida or anywhere else about how these book bans or school board policy fights capture what's really at stake for students, really, and obviously for teachers as well?
Yeah. Number one, yes, you're right. Most people don't know who their even school board member at their district level is, like who they are represented by. And I think that's completely critical. Please find out who they are, talk to them, send them an email, show up to a school board meeting, especially when kids are speaking. When kids are out there and they're advocating for something, like show them support. We know that, a lot of these policies where they're eliminating books and they're rewriting curriculum and censoring teachers, this is where it's happening. And so we need parents and community members to show up. So please go to Educated We Stand, donate $10, $20, whatever you can. It's going to be critical to the work that we're able to do. But things, I'll give you an example of something that happened here in Florida, in Miami. When they started to, really come down and, dismantle things that have been, no-brainers in the past, like acknowledging LGBTQ or Pride Month, right? These things that already existed, they started to dismantle them and not allow school boards to pass any board items that were related to them. We saw that there was a lot of fear in even educators, excellent educators that had, really spent their entire careers at their profession helping children, saying, I can't have a picture of me and my spouse or my partner on my classroom because if a student asks me about, my partner, it's going to create an issue where I can get investigated, or I have a Black Lives Matter flag, or I have, an LGBTQ plus flag up, or, everybody's welcome here flag. I mean, all these things became controversial. And
Everybody's
there were
welcome here is
I
controversial.
know. Can you believe that? And so teachers, some of them felt, they were so offended by all these changes, and not being able to speak and teach with authenticity. That I know of cases where these teachers who had been in our classrooms 10, even 20 years left the profession. And there is a big there's a big shift right now where a lot of states, and I don't know, what it's like in New York right now, but there's a big shift where there's a lot of vacancies in the education field. We are losing not only seasoned, experienced teachers that are just brilliant and know their craft, but it's too much for people. People don't want to deal with the politics of this. They want to be able to just teach freely with authenticity, make sure that children are well-rounded and ready to be, critical thinkers in our communities. And they're being stifled in so many ways that it's just not something that that they feel comfortable doing anymore, because they feel that all these policies are very directed to trying to eliminate them from being in the classroom. And so that's obviously very hurtful. Kids showing up to school board meetings and talking about, wanting to see themselves represented through, celebrating Pride Month or things like that. And, school boards just shutting them down and trying to make them feel like they don't belong. I mean, who does that to a kid? Who does that to a community? How do we think that education is well-rounded or holistic when you're sitting around figuring out how to ban books or create processes to ban books? No classroom, no teacher is there to harm a child. We have a curriculum. The curriculums are all passed by the state board. So every state has that authority to pass the curriculum and the standards. And of course, everything has always been pre-approved. So this crazy idea that these things are happening in the classroom when there is no evidence of those things is just really heartbreaking to a lot of teachers. And they've left. And it's a disservice to our kids when we have such professionals that are out there that are willing to do so much for our community that don't feel like that they can do that anymore under this environment.
There's so much at stake. This issue alone, it's really, in many ways, I mean, democracy is such an important issue, and I feel like it comes before everything, because we can't get anything done if we can't work together to elect people and to come to agreement on solutions. Just a general small d idea of democracy. But when, the next issue that makes any country smart, strong, successful is education. So like you said, if you don't have kids, you should be caring about this issue just as much. It affects you. I mean, watching people just believe anything they hear or see, I always, Karla, just go to, oh God, how do we get so dumb? I have all kinds of ideas around that, but it's not quite that way in Europe. It's not that way in Canada.
Right.
It's not that way in Finland, and places where they have strong public education. And frankly, it wasn't always that way in America, and and it isn't everywhere in America. Where public education is widely supported, you can see the data in every single outcome that matters, including to staunch capitalists, all of it. There's almost, I think, nothing more important than pre-K, universal pre-K.
Yes.
Because of the outcomes that you see for those who had that advantage, because early childhood education is apparently where your brain forms, I'm told.
And that research is out there and has existed for decades. Like, we know what the solutions are. The question is, as a community, as a society, as a nation, are we willing to invest in it?
You are first generation American. Your dad came here, I believe, from Honduras. Hardworking guy, carpenter, put a premium on education for you. And you it's hard to know what is the reason for your success in terms of everything you've done, from being a special ed teacher to the teacher of the year to the leader of one of the biggest teachers unions in the country to now running this amazing nonprofit, Educated We Stand. But you understand the importance of education. The question, though, is about the immigration issue and the fact that non-white people are especially being targeted all over the country right now. What do you want to say as a first-generation American, Honduran American? You identify as Hispanic. What's the difference? Do you feel any difference between Latino and Hispanic? What do you feel?
I don't, but I know that some people are very passionate about it.
Okay.
So I'm okay with Latina or Hispanic. It's fine.
Okay, and so how is this issue impacting immigrants, first generation, non-white people, even people who've been here for several generations who might be one shade of the wrong color, who are teachers, who are police officers, who are getting pulled over? I mean, we had these white police officers in Minneapolis just say a bunch of our officers have been pulled over by ICE, by federal authorities, and they're all people of color. Like the cops are saying this now, Karla.
Yeah. I saw those interviews, by the way. I think that was, so everybody needs to watch it. So telling. I think number one, it's impacting a lot of communities. We know that even if ICE isn't present in that city or that state, or they're present in all the states, but in big forces and cities, there is a whole like underground kind of whispering movement that's happening. A lot of parents, unfortunately, because they're scared, are pulling their kids out of school. These are kids that sometimes depend on our school system for their breakfast and their lunch, besides their education, which is something that's so critical, because we tell kids, what you learn, people cannot take that away from you. That's in your brain, you're growing, you're learning, and that is forever yours. And so we want to make sure that parents know that these are our babies too. We want to be able to be part of the community that helps them to grow and thrive. But these are scary times. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of parents are pulling them out, are going underground, to be quite honest. I know of teachers that have started kind of like WhatsApp thread communities where they're actually buying groceries for these parents who will not leave their house because they're so scared to step out of their house because of ICE presence. So a big shout out to all my colleagues, educators in Minneapolis. I know that a lot of them were doing walkouts today. They're wearing blue. They're trying to show solidarity and taking care of what's happening in the community and each other, because they're out there and they're blowing whistles and they're creating groups of just alert ways to alert the community when something is off, when something doesn't seem right, to protect one another. And I think we can all learn from it. We all should be organizing and should be ready. And we need to understand that public education, like I said earlier, is the cornerstone. We have to make sure that every child has access to a high quality education.
Uh-oh. Is that my internet? Am I still alive? Am I still here? Am I still here? Am I alive? Where did Karla go? We have to make sure that everybody has access to a great public education, was where I'm bookmarking it. All right, Benny, thank you. I'm still here, but you don't see Karla, do you? I'm going to wait for her to come back. Such an important issue. And like everything else, it's getting overshadowed by everything else that's happening, which seems to be more imminent and urgent. Oh, you're back.
There we go. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't know what happened, but it is funny that when you came back, when you punched back in, your phone was upside. So you were upside down. I was like, holy shit, that is a weird internet situation. Inverted now. You were making the point about everybody needs to have access to a quality public education. And so I guess as a way to kind of, wrap up on a positive note, I'm the eternal optimist. I love James Baldwin's quote where he said, I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist means that you've agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. You are a born leader. You've been leading people, men and women and everybody else for your whole career and probably your life. And I wonder what your view is on that spectrum of optimism, realism, pessimism, whatever, because what I see right now is I see a lot of wins. I see a lot of grassroots organization. I see a lot of human beings rejecting the narrative coming from the federal government. I see people standing up and all over this country, and I see actual wins happening. You mentioned some, your percentage rate. So it seems like we're losing a lot of battles, or even the war, but also I think there's so much to be hopeful for and to be optimistic about. Your view. What is it?
And look, I think some of the just easy things that we can see is, look, what's happening with No King's Day, right? There's more masses, there's more numbers. People are really organizing in their communities, seeing how people are reacting to ICE coming into their communities. But, for public education specifically, I'll tell you that besides Florida having an 83% win rate, we're seeing just win rates in other places. Texas, the Cy-Fair district this past November had 3 seats that were flipped. They were Moms for Liberty seats. We're talking about Texas, okay, which is like synonymous to Florida, right? I think people see them for who they truly are. They know that it's a front, right? They're not about liberty. They're actually the quite opposite of that. They've seen how they've created chaos and, just really a lot of controversy in school districts and taken away opportunities from students. And so they've lost their steam. They're losing, a lot of their endorsements. They just don't have, they don't have the right talking points. People are over it. They want, a school district that brings peace, that brings collaboration, that has resources, that just has stability. And we see that every time that a Moms for Liberty candidate or a far right candidate comes in, they destabilize it. Yep. And so this is Florida, who has been suffering under this type of rule for a very long time. Republican governor, state legislature, our Senate, all branches of government here. And yet, what we're seeing is that in the community, when you're talking to people about their local issues, about their local school board, about how this helps the economics, how when you're talking about affordability and the economics of a community, education is key. Our kids are going to take care of us one way or another when we get older. That's definitely something that's very Latino, right? Like our family, we are expected to watch over our parents and the grandparents. And so are we giving them the right tools? Are we helping them think critically? Are we using evidence-based research to make sure that they have these opportunities and that we're growing through the research? And so that's why education is so important. Please visit Educated We Stand. Make a donation, 10, 20 bucks, whatever you can. But it's a great opportunity right now, because I do see that the wind.
She's gone again. It must be Moms from Liberty. They must have hacked her. I lost Karla. By the way, if you can't donate, which not everybody listening or watching will be able to donate, you can follow them on Facebook. Educated We Stand. If you're on Facebook, if you're not, fine. But you can follow them. If you can't donate, you can follow on Facebook. You can follow on different social media platforms. You can follow Karla as well on those social media platforms. Sorry, Karla, we lost you again for a second. But I just, want to make sure that if everybody follows you and supports you and subscribes to the newsletter, which you can get in your email box. And I also just want to say, you mentioned taking care of your parents. As you know, as a lot of people listen and watch me know, that my parents were in this horrible car accident. And I wanted to take a moment to thank you, not only for being a good friend and reaching out and being thoughtful, but more importantly, to thank you and everybody else who's involved in a teachers union. My mom was in the ICU. Now she's in rehab. And yes, of course, she's got Medicare, which is great. But her secondary insurance is from her 25 years as a teacher. And for all of her healthcare needs, as she's gotten older, it's covered everything. The reason my mom hasn't had to pay for anything for healthcare is because she was a dedicated teacher in the Syracuse City School District for over 20 years. And every teacher deserves that. And so thank you to you and all your brothers and sisters working in teachers unions across the country, because the healthcare matters so much. And it specifically at this very moment, brought my mom back to life, and she's doing so much better. So I just wanted to shout out the teacher union for that.
I'm glad your mom is doing good. Shout out to those nurses too who are there taking
Oh yeah.
care of her and every single person that's hospitalized in not just your hospital, your local, but all around the country.
Yeah, yeah. I always say, if you want to criticize a teacher, walk a day in their shoes. If you want to criticize a nurse, I just walked a day in their shoes. I wanted to kill everyone. And so I know how you all do it. Thank you, Karla, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching live and listening. Go to Educated We Stand, follow them, send them money, and follow Karla wherever she goes. Thank you, Karla.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.